Okay, so welcome. 15 minutes for me is a long time, so I'll probably be a bit briefer than 15 minutes, which I think is a good thing for everybody. In the subject in terms of the global crisis and how it's going to affect real estate development in general in Serbia is something that everyone's been talking about for quite a while. I think it's clear what's happening right now. First off is that obviously one of the most important factors in real estate development is the availability of financing or senior debt. Effectively, these markets are closed. And quite frankly, these markets are closed not just in Serbia, but for the most part throughout the region. Whether you're in the UK, France, Russia, China, wherever, the States, it's all closed. So I think fundamentally it's our view that until the credit markets reopen and risk from the lending capacity is reevaluated, real estate development is almost going to not exist unless you have pure equity developers. And there's not that many pure equity developers in this region today for big, large projects. So I think that that is going to effectively, one of the questions is about the projects that have been canceled or some certain projects are now being reviewed. Quite frankly, a lot of that stems from the fact that there's just no available credit. I mean, clearly, nobody has enough equity in today's market to do projects on their own. So for that standpoint, a lot of projects aren't even affected by the fundamentals of real estate or the occupational markets, but quite frankly from the debt markets. In terms of the global recession, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch are forecasting that the U.S. can potentially come out of recession by the sort of December, November area. There's been some recent indicators, obviously on the jobless claims, that don't support that view. However, there are some other macroeconomic indicators which are coming that potentially would support that. So it's my big hope that 2/3 of the world economy has been in a large part driven by the U.S. consumer. I'm not a big believer that the U.S. consumer always has to lead the world out of recession, but I think it's got to be a concerted effort on all governments to have a big stimulus package to help us get out. So the announcement by Japan of a $154 billion program, China, the U.S., a lot of people have been speculating about the Big Two summit. We have the G20, but quite frankly, there should be a G2 summit between the U.S. and China, and a lot of people pin their hopes that that spending power could really drive us out of recession. What we're seeing clearly is that a lot of companies, foreign companies, for example, when you look at the FDI trends, I mean, those projects are significantly on hold. The good foreign companies who are here are starting to retrench their own companies, and Serbia has, to some extent, lagged other companies in Western Europe, but certainly the amount of staff that each company needs is starting to flow through. That's obviously impacting the occupational market for office and for retail. Clearly, the declining purchasing power that everyone knows in Serbia is starting to take hold. And what that's going to mean is obviously there's going to put the retailers under significant pressure. With the opening of Ušće Shopping Center, which maybe you guys have heard about that, it's been in one or two newspapers recently. What we're seeing is that all the retailers are really starting to struggle. In my view, historically, Belgrade has had higher than normal rents. That's due to, quite frankly, the lack of klase, European standard space. This recession is obviously going to put all the retailers, they already are under significant pressure. What I think is going to happen is what's happened everywhere around the world in this situation. Again, it wasn't so long ago that all you have to do is look at economies like Poland or Warsaw, where you had very similar rents. They were in the US dollar at the time, but they went from 50 US dollar equivalent down to 12. And that was on the office side. It was a combination of oversupply and the economy getting crippled. Belgrade, in my view, is going to do the same thing. Office rents, again, I'm very bearish on where office rents are going in Belgrade. I think there's a whole host of new, nice buildings which are coming to the market, and there's there's not enough occupational demand, and the demand that is here today is shrinking. Again, I think the same dynamic holds true for retail. I think the centers who are going to suffer the most are the tertiary centers, and what I mean by that are sort of the Class B centers.